The last two Zelda games were nearly perfect. They had 96 on Metacritic, there was a lot of 10s, and there was a lot of high praise for this game. It influenced a lot of games after it, like Horizon Forbidden West, Elden Ring, Sonic Frontiers, Immortals Phoenix Rising, and many others. Tears of the Kingdom made significant improvements over Breath of the Wild. The story was better, it made the familiar feel new, the map was 2.5 times the size of an already ginormous map, and it was definitely worth the $70 you got out of the game. The game takes you nearly 120 hours to beat, let alone complete, which takes even longer than that. Up next, I'm going to talk about 5 ways that I think that Nintendo can improve upon Tears of the Kingdom for Zelda's next adventure, and these ways may be a bit controversial. It may ruffle some feathers a little bit in the process, so get your keyboards ready for the comment section below, and let's get ready to dive into the 5 reasons I think Nintendo can improve on Tears of the Kingdom. It's no secret that weapon durability is a very divisive topic. Some people love it, others hate it. I go back and forth. I think it's a welcome change, and it's really good to play new playstyles, but more often I really found it annoying. Granted, Tears of the Kingdom did improve Breath of the Wild's weapon durability, but more often than not, even with the fuse capability, it still was a little bit annoying. I had a lot of weapons that were high tier, but even with that, knowing how fragile they were, I found myself playing way more conservatively, knowing these weapons had a very short shelf life. And I think instead what can be improved in the next game is if we had weaker weapons at first, and then the ability to upgrade those weapons over time with clues as to where to find these mods and upgrades in the world, I think that could make for a better weapon system. Even if this change is similar to how other open world games go, I really think it could be different enough for Zelda, even hypothetically if we made the Master Sword upgradable. If the rumors are true that we are getting a Switch 2, Switch Pro, whatever you want to call it, that is capable of handling performance levels of that of the PS4/Xbox One, I think it's time to move on to a more realistic style of art. Twilight Princess did this in 2006, and the original concepts for Breath of the Wild were realistic art styles, if you remember. The cartoon/anime leaning style of the last 2 games definitely worked for the art style of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, and it really brought out the performance that the Switch can handle. Kind of. But with this new console, I think if this thing can handle a Matrix demo, granted these rumors are actually fact, then I really think that Zelda can handle a realistic looking world. Imagine Link traveling in a world like Horizon Forbidden West, Zero Dawn, Jedi Fallen Order, or even Red Dead Redemption. I really think we would all be shook by this. The frame rate may take a dip or two, but we really all forgive Nintendo for that anyway, am I right? The last 2 Zelda maps were bonkers huge. Remember when we all thought Skyrim was absolutely massive? Hyrule puts Skyrim to shame in the last 2 iterations. Question of the day. Is bigger always better? Let me know in the comments section. We are starting to head in a direction of games boasting smaller gameplay time and therefore smaller maps. Assassin's Creed Mirage, in particular, in contrast to Assassin's Creed Valhalla, boasting a smaller time frame of gameplay, it's making the rounds as a homage to the originals and stuff. So I really think that if we were to go smaller, and I'm not saying a small map by any means, but if we can get a smaller map than what we had in the last 2 Zelda games, I think we can make progress. Hear me out. It took me and the majority of people who played Tears of the Kingdom roughly 120 hours to complete Tears of the Kingdom, not counting Breath of the Wild, which took me 90 hours to complete, of which 60 hours had me unlocking the map and going to find those microscopic light roots, the ones that you don't realize you missed and have to go back for and really look through the map to figure out where you missed. And this will tie in later to my final point regarding story. Because Link is a silent protagonist, a large part of my exploration in Tears of the Kingdom was spent listening to podcasts and YouTube in the background. Now, this is not a bad thing, but it is different. An advantage to this is you could play Tears of the Kingdom while watching the Patriots get completely squished by the fish, while Mike McDaniels sprints to the locker room, or your wife is anticipating the new season of The Golden Bachelor nonsense and pretend to watch it with her. Exploration is a hallmark of the last few Zelda games. It's really been a hallmark of all the Zelda games, but it was really ramped up in the last two. And even at that, Tears of the Kingdom made traversal a lot easier. A smaller, albeit open map would still allow for more of a Wind Waker approach to exploration, with more emphasis on story, and more on that later. Give Link a voice. Give everyone a voice.
The voice begins right after the Super Bowl.
All the main characters up until this point have been voiced except for Link, and this makes him really stand out. Link definitely communicates, just not with his words. The original intent for Link was to be voiceless so he could fit the shoes of the player. If the entire dialogue in the game were all text, Link's silence would blend in a lot more, but in a game where Zelda, Ganondorf, Rauru, and even side characters have a lot of talking points and voice acting, it makes Link's gestures kind of stick out like a sore thumb a little bit. Nintendo may be afraid of getting it wrong.
Link!
Oh boy, smooching time!
We all know they messed up with Samus.
Lindley?
But at some point, Link should talk and have a personality, especially if this rumored movie is true, given the success of the Mario movie and hinting at the upcoming Super Smash Bros. Movie.
There's a huge universe out there.
Not saying that it is upcoming, but saying there's a possibility. Even NPCs have small grunts and oohs and ahs. I mean, Link definitely does have a voice. I mean, we hear him scream, we hear him get hurt, we hear him do a lot of things, but he just doesn't talk. So as part of my not finishing Tears of the Kingdom side quest, at least in part was me being too lazy to read through the text. Shoot me. The other part was that I had spent so much time not realizing, like, exploring, spelunking, and all of a sudden I'm 90 hours in and I'm like, wow, I haven't done any story and even seen Ganondorf since I've started the story. I'm not sure if the budget for the last two didn't account for NPC voice acting or what, but when main actors minus Link have dialogue, even at that, they have cutscenes of dialogue, and then the rest they just kind of communicate through grunts and other noises. Don't get me wrong, what is there and what I've completed and what most people complete is really good. It's just that I don't think Zelda is really known for its side quests so much as something like The Witcher or Skyrim or something is. And that's also not to say that I don't like reading text. If you follow me on Twitter, you will see that I'm a book lover. What I'm saying is this is a AAA game, and most AAA games have full voice acting. I think with less focus on an enormous map, more time and dedication can go to that bit of dialogue between Link and everyone else. Most mainline Zelda stories unfold in linear fashion. The last two were told in memories, so it is completely up to the player when or even if they want the story to unfold. Many jumped right into making the world's most hilarious shorts videos, creatively building human anatomy, somehow making the game even M-rated, and even beating the game in 94 minutes.
Why?
This is great as far as anyone who wants to conquer the game really doesn't conquer the game in the same way. Personally, I did cutscene 1, 12, 4, 8, 10, and so on, not really knowing which cutscenes to tackle in which order, and if you want, you can probably argue that they don't matter which order you see the cutscenes as long as you see them all. You do also have the option of replaying them from cutscene 1 all the way up to the last one in order, I think a story as it unfolds in order serves to attach the player more emotionally to the story. Don't get me wrong, there are plenty of epic moments in the last 2 Zelda games, but when you're not sure which order to tackle the memories, the Tears of the Kingdom, the story can get a little muddled and can kind of confusing. You can always replay these again in chronological order, but I would personally prefer to experience the story as it's told in order. I really think Wind Waker nailed this aspect because it was an open world game that guided you to the next spot where you were supposed to go. Side quest, while done much better in Tears of the Kingdom than in Breath of the Wild, they were still kind of light. I do wish there were more side adventures that had more voice acting. I just wish that there were like more of them that filled out the story. They're definitely there, but I can definitely use more in the style of Red Dead Redemption or Horizon. We also should do away with fetch quests. I can't tell you how annoying it is to go start a quest, do something cool, and then here's 50 rupees in return. I would personally rather do a quest, learn more about the world, and have a small story arc in between for a side quest. Zelda games have always been action-adventure. I think a new direction that the series could take it would be to incorporate RPG elements like Horizon and Assassin's Creed Odyssey have done with their open worlds, and make dialogue choices so that they matter and influence how the game plays out. I think if we had a full action RPG, the player could get more emotionally tied to the story and thus perhaps have a more fulfilling gameplay experience. There are a lot of people who are very pro the way Tears of the Kingdom did it, just mostly focus on gameplay and the story kind of takes a back seat. I'm one of those people who really enjoys a good story. I am not good at Call of Duty. I am not good at most multiplayer games. It takes me a while to get good at them. I'd personally rather play a full story and have an emotional experience with my video games. So I think that could do the series a bit of good going further. And that's also not to say that the games in previous years have not had great stories or emotionally tied you to the story. Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, those were very emotional games too. What I am saying is, with the emotion of the story, paired with the RPG elements, I think that could be a good way for the series to move forward. Earlier I said that I was listening to podcast or YouTube in the background while I was exploring Tears of the Kingdom. I think if Zelda was a companion, a lot of quote-unquote dead air could be filled with conversation between Link and Zelda in order to drive the plot forward, building relationship and tension, and inform you of the lore while you're exploring. Most open world games, like take Spider-Man for instance, he's talking on the phone while he's web swinging, driving the plot forward or exploring New York. God of War is teaching Kratos while on the road to their next destination. Red Dead, there's a bunch of banter between the gang while they're going to their destination on horseback. If Zelda adds elements like these, I think they could really have the potential to hit us right in the feels. Do you agree with these points, or do you think I'm a little nuts for having more of a story-based Zelda going forward? Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I have another video for you to watch right here.